Well, hold on, Michael. You were saying that the taxing of the air, isn't that what's coming with this scam of global warming? They want to just do a carbon tax, and how many miles you drive. Isn't it the same?
That's exactly what's coming in again. It's the same old feudalism under a different guise. And as a matter of fact, for instance, at the last conference I was at, Bath, Peter Taylor and other speakers got up there to speak about the whole lie of that, the entire fallacy of this climate concept of the global warming, showing you the evidence that, yeah, there are changes happening in nature.
Anthropogenic global warming, for those who want to know.
Yeah, then it's nothing connected to this. So, you see, they have their, as I said, they come in every 10 years they do it. Every 5 to 10 years they wheel out some other public debacle through which they can transmit the real message to people, which is a message of conformity and a message of false promises and a message of a feeling of galvanization. See, people feel very galvanized around these political movements. People are very lonely, very isolated, running madly from the seeking for selfhood. And so that you put on some circus, like Aldous Huxley said, bring on some bread and circuses, and sure enough, you'll be swamped. Because people are trying to escape from their real duty of life by coming in. And you see, this is even happening within the conspiracy movement as well. That's why at the beginning of our interview, I was talking that I'm not so interested in what's going to happen in the mass public. I'm very much against even looking at that. I don't do my work for that reason. Because in fact, even within this genre, just as the New Age world got contaminated with this, where every Tom, Dick, and Harry, just appears, pressing their faces up against the window, trying to get in, gate crash the place, and so the thing crumbles under its own weight. Because I'm against any kind of movement in which people galvanize. Because that very thing is the antithesis of what Michael Tsarion is talking about. And I don't want this wonderful movement, this alternative research movement, to become like that, to become a duplicate, you see, of all the other mistakes that have been made before. Then you're not doing anything different than, in fact, the political movement. This has to be borne in mind, you see. And therefore I'm against people within this movement who talk about that, who are trying to bend it so that they can profit in this way, or that they have this illusion, fallacy, of the galvanization of all people around a certain new flag, the flag of freedom. This is not new. I'm not about that. I'm about having every individual, and that's why at the beginning of the interview you so rightly said that was the first thing we addressed in the Architects of Control. Who am I? What am I doing here? What on earth have I been born here for? To be a servant of somebody else? To be dependent on the approval of other people? To live my life as a shadow of myself? To live on the surface of my own self? And to get on a conveyor belt and race towards my death as if I'm hungry to get there? And then under some guise of some other, okay, they're going to teach me the truth, I plunge into that, mix, and I'm going to lose my essential identity in another cause. You see, I refuse to be a person who works in that kind of sphere. And yet, of course, we have to have a compromise, because at the same time, to get a message out, you need a certain amount of, publicity and what have you. But ultimately, we should never lose sight of the fact that the human nature doesn't necessarily want to climb. Haven't we seen that since the 1960s? That every single idiom of culture has been reduced to the level, right, of the ignoramus, as opposed to asking the ignoramus to cultivate himself and rise up to the higher values that our forefathers understood. In music, in language, in speech, in philosophy, in art, in architecture, in design. Everything that you can think of, every idiom, has been reduced to the level of the 8th grader with no sense of standards whatsoever.
That goes to the dumbing down of society. And there's a movie out there that's more comedy than anything, but it has so much truth. It's called Idiocracy. I don't know if you've ever seen that.
Yes, I have seen that, and that's exactly right. And therefore, all of this has been happening steadily. And as I said, even in certain areas, the previous values of the previous era are being even mocked, albeit in a humorous way. But much more seditious than that is simply the erosion of all the standards, all the moral standards. And man not realizing that then is the nihilism that Nietzsche spoke about. That's the decadence and nihilism that he said is the precursor to the complete destruction of civilization. And therefore I am not interested, you see, in then sort of building, helping, create the clay, to create the bricks, of the global village. I'm interested in the kind of inhabitant of that global village. What kind of creature is going to inhabit that place? And I, for one, don't want to have any part of it. And hopefully people who, are also feeling the same way, and they are. The good thing about it is that there are. That's why we have radio shows like yours. This is extremely important. This is very imminent.
And I have a set of questions from people around the world. You ready for them?
Yeah, sure, go ahead.
Michael, can you summarize for the people new to your research material how archetypal symbols are used commercially to subconsciously influence the consciousness of the individuals observing them?
Well, yes, it's because language as we know it in words is very recent. We already talked about the very fact that thinking is recent. So even if you take the research of Bruce Lipton or any of these people, you have to understand that communication in words is a very recent thing. And when you communicate in words, you have to relate to the left hemisphere of the brain, which has a lot of filters, is highly critical, and that can be a very good thing, of course. However, when you deal in more abstract symbolism, like numbers, colors, rhythms, light, and to a certain extent numbers when they're used in an occult manner, that has a potential of bypassing the conscious mind. Of course, this is a very elaborate story, and I've gone into it in, I think it was a 5-hour DVD. It was a very long, story that go into it. But in the Subversive Symbolism DVD, which is part of the Origins and Oracles, we went into this. And I also refer in that DVD to all the different books of the different scholars and researchers who talk about this exactly in precise technical terms. But remember, a lot of the advertising that's done today is directed towards children. So what's the point of using fancy terms and words to children who are pre-logical, pre-rational? What's the point of talking to children who are not even in what's called the reality principle? They inhabit what's known as the pleasure principle. What's the point of talking to adults who are not in the reality principle? Yeah, they go to work and they conform, but most people are grown-up children who are still occupying the what's called the pleasure principle. I can take you to their door. I actually know where they live. I can take you to friends of mine, the people of the world that I know who have never grown up. And therefore, if you're going to speak to that kind of mind, that type of libido, that type of regressed individual, wasting your time with words, that's pointless. You can do it, but it takes a long time. Much better to bypass all of that. And since individuals have so many sexual hang-ups and so many other little mini prejudices and hatreds and whatever else, you start talking to that. So you create divergences, you take allegiances. You got the 49ers, and you got the Raiders, and you got the Levi's, and you got the Wrangler, and you got the Pepsis, and you got the Cokes, and you got the Jay Leno's, and you got the whoever else, the David Letterman, and you got CNN, and you got ABC. And so don't we see what is going on here? It's called ordo ab chao. It's called the dialectic. But it's a dialectic taken out of a philosophical world and applied directly into the world of reality. Until, in fact, what you have is the illusion of choice, when in fact you don't have any choice at all. I mean, choice between two things? I mean, that's pretty primitive. So, but that's good enough for the masses of mankind.
And this is the part where people say, oh, Mel, this is such a negative, so much negativity in your show, da-da-da-da-da. And that just proves to you that people who don't want to open their eyes are just mind controlled to be left alone, to be left that way so they can turn on the TV and watch their favorite sports or their favorite live, whatever they call it these days. How do you call those shows that they film people walking around and all day long?
The reality TV.
Reality TV. That's the newest trend. And people would rather watch that all day long than go out there like you, like Jordan Maxwell, like Ralph Epperson, like G. Edward Griffin and some others, and get facts that are totally transformational to our lives.
And you see, that's a talismanic word that's being used right now, reality TV. It's a complete misnomer. But secondly, the people, and I get this a lot, the people who criticize me as being negative are right. I am profoundly negative in the purest sense of that word. Because the pure sense of that word is I negate. I don't accept. Because you must have zero tolerance for lies. You must have zero tolerance for stuff that's basically trying to control your life and your mind.
Right.
And my message to the people that listen to me is you must be the same way. Be profoundly negative. Because in negation is the secret of how to grasp the truth. Deconstruct, analyze, do what the scientist does. Do what any real discovery is all about. There's not one great artist who did not deconstruct the artwork of the previous school. There's not one musician who didn't rebel, you see. The great musicians always were in rebellion. Rebellion was a foundational motive. The pre-Raphaelites, right, were absolutely against the kind of art that came before them, as the Expressionists. Now tell me what the world would be.
Well, that's why they manifest their original will to create music, to create paintings, to create new things. Every genre is based on the spirit of rebellion, the spirit of contradiction, and the ultimate, need to react to a previous order. It's something that is inherent within creativity, and therefore all these talismanic words that have been used since in the New Age movement is highly implicatable in this. Positive, positivity, put on the smile, one season world. Why? You shouldn't be smiling if you don't feel happy. You shouldn't be concocting false realities for yourself. You shouldn't be concocting an idea of reality. You should be dealing with a reality as it is. And there's no way to do that until you are profoundly negative in the purest sense, the philosophical sense of that word. And this is what the change is over now. I literally do believe that we are in what's called an age of awakening, an age of revealing. Because it is non-negotiable fact that even though there wasn't a lot of evidence left, because the conquistadors made sure that they erased it, there was information that said that this is a prediction. The 2012 prediction about the age of revealing is absolutely legitimate. It was in stone. As I admit, there wasn't much, but it was there. And since so much was confiscated, hundreds and hundreds of books were burned to make sure that people didn't realize the profound understanding of these magi, for whom time didn't even exist in fact. They understood that time is basically an illusion, that all reality is seen holographically. It's a man-made system. It's a man-made concept.
This is known to people of the higher dimension, you see. And so their message was for all times, all cycles, because they know that nature has its cycles, and so does consciousness. And therefore, I do believe that we are in a period right now of the Age of Awakening. I see every evidence of it every single day. But the motive, the inhabitant of that Age of Awakening, must be a profound sense of contradiction, to fall in love with the word no, and to in a strange way, build from that. This is profoundly important, and it's exactly this kind of spirit that is knocked out of children, that stops their natural flow of intelligence, and that forces them to conform, and is basically is imminent. It's the bloodstream of the architecture of control that exists in the world, is this level of conformity and going along to get along.